Welcome to today's deep dive. We are jumping into a world today that is, honestly, it's equal parts awe-inspiring and just completely
Oh,
terrifying.
absolutely terrifying.
Right. And you, our listeners, you sent us a massive stack of sources on this one. Our subject today, which has to be highlighted right up front in this audio overview, is this book name is The Will of the Many novel by James Islington.
And it's quite a ride.
It really is. So our mission for this deep dive is pretty ambitious. We are going to explore a sprawling dystopian empire that is powered by the literal physical life force of its own citizens.
Which is such a wild concept to try and wrap your head around.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll also uncover the dark mysteries of this highly elite, incredibly cutthroat academy. It's where the ruling class trains their kids. And finally, we are going to analyze a violent rebellion that, well, it might actually be a massive false flag operation.
Right. It's a narrative that really forces you to look at power dynamics, survival too, especially the impossible choices people have to make when literally every system around them is structurally rigged against them.
Yeah, structurally rigged is the perfect way to put it, because to understand the impossible situation our main character, VS, is in, we have to start with the foundation of this whole universe.
The Catenan Republic.
Yes, the Catenan Republic, or as it's usually called, the hierarchy. And the sources make it clear that when they say they rule the known world, that is not an exaggeration.
No, not at all. They've conquered or assimilated basically every other nation. It's a massive Roman-esque empire.
But the thing is, their dominance isn't built on standard economics or, traditional agriculture. It's built on a much more visceral kind of extraction.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Because this is the core concept. The hierarchy runs on a commodity that they call will. And we aren't talking about willpower in the motivational sense, like grit or determination.
Right, it's not a metaphor.
Exactly. In the Catenan Republic, will is a tangible physical resource. It's human energy, mental focus, drive, sheer life force. And the entire society is a literal pyramid scheme of human energy. A very steep pyramid. At the very bottom, you have the lower class citizens. They're called the Octavii.
Right, the Octavi.
And by law, an Octavus has to cede half of their will to the person directly above them in the pyramid.
Half. Just think about that. I really want you listening right now to try and put yourself in those shoes.
It's hard to even imagine.
It really is. Imagine waking up every single day feeling like you've only had a few hours of terrible sleep. You go to work, you do manual labor, you try to raise your family, but you are permanently exhausted.
Because literally half of your energy is invisibly siphoned off.
Yeah, siphoned off to a politician or a military officer you've never even met. How would you even survive in a world like that? How do you organize a protest when just existing leaves you physically hollowed out?
You don't. And that's the genius, the evil genius of the system.
Yeah.
The cultural conditioning is staggering. The hierarchy has this ubiquitous catchphrase, stronger together.
Stronger together. You see it everywhere in the sources.
Exactly. Citizens say it in the streets. It's carved into buildings. It sounds like this beautiful unifying motto, right? Lifting each other up.
But it's a lie.
A total lie. It completely masks a parasitic reality. The Octavi aren't participating in a community exchange. They're being systematically drained. But the hierarchy frames it as a civic duty, which makes it incredibly hard for the average citizen to question the morality of it.
So it's a metaphor for systemic inequality, but made painfully literal. To really grasp this scale, we have to look at the math. They call this will usage polyphagy.
The math is what turns the elite into something practically inhuman. It's an exponential scale. So Octavi are at the bottom. Above them are the septimae.
Right, the rank of Septimus.
And a septimus receives half the will from 8 different Octavi.
So if we run those numbers, a Septimus essentially holds the equivalent will of 5 human beings, their own baseline energy, plus 4 full equivalents from those 8 halves.
Which means this one person automatically has the strength, endurance, and mental processing power of 5 people.
And that's just the very first step up. Above them is the Sextus. A Sextus receives will from 7 Septimii.
So by the time you reach Sextus, you have the combined will of over 18 people.
It just keeps climbing. Quintus, Quartus, Tertius, Domitius, and at the very pinnacle, the Princeps.
The math at that level is astronomical.
Yeah.
A princeps sits on a pyramid supported by the life force of tens of thousands of people.
So these people at the top, they aren't just rich, they are functionally superhuman. Godlike strength and mental acuity.
And they can imbue objects with this energy.
Right. They imbue inanimate matter, they levitate massive stone blocks to build their cities, power huge ships across oceans without wind.
They even have a whole transportation network called Transvex powered by it.
The entire glowing infrastructure of the capital city, Catenan, is built on the invisible exhaustion of the lower classes, which brings us to the dark underbelly. What happens when someone refuses to comply?
Or if they break the rules. The hierarchy doesn't just execute them.
No, because in a society that treats humans as literal batteries, execution is a waste of resources.
Exactly. They send them to penal labor camps, the most notorious one being Leighton's prison.
And the sources give us a visceral look inside Leighton's prison through Vis, our protagonist. Vis is working in the dark, damp lower levels with this older Septimus named Rolf.
Their job is terrifying. They tend to the prisoners in the deepest isolation cells.
Yeah, and these aren't standard cells. They are open stone alcoves, and inside each one is a device called a sapper. I want to ask you about the mechanics of this because the sapper seems fundamentally different from normal will transfer.
It is entirely different. It's devoid of any careful management. A sapper is a mirror-polished white stone slab. The prisoner is strapped to it, heavily manacled.
And while an octavist safely gives up half their will,
the sapper is a violent vacuum. It aggressively drains all of a person's will, every drop of focus and physical energy.
The descriptions in the text are haunting. The prisoners are emaciated, glassy-eyed, skin like pale gray parchment,
hovering right on the precipice of death for years.
Vis notes that the true face of the hierarchy is laid bare down there. The beautiful architecture above is paid for by this hidden barbarism.
It's the ultimate commodification of human life. But this setting gives us the inciting incident for the whole story.
Yes, a high-ranking official, Quintus Ulciscor, visits Leighton's prison in the middle of the night. He's interrogating a prisoner on a sapper named Nateo.
And Nateo manages a moment of desperate strength. He breaks free and lunges at Ulciscor.
Total chaos. Vis reacts on pure instinct and throws himself between them, but Vis loses his footing and falls backward.
Directly onto the exposed surface of the sapper.
Barehanded, skin to stone, which we just established is fundamentally lethal. It should instantly drain his life force.
But he doesn't die.
Right. He feels this horrific, acidic, cold-burning sensation, but he scrambles off, and he's fine. He's not hollowed out. What's fascinating here is why he survives.
We have to look at the Catenan coming-of-age rituals, the Aurora Columnae.
These ancient, towering pillars from before the cataclysm.
Right. When a child turns 12, they are taken to a pillar to officially connect to the global will network.
But Vis actively refused to undergo this ritual. He slipped through the cracks.
He opted out entirely. So because he never made that initial physical connection, the sapper couldn't latch onto his life force. The sapper is designed to interface with connected will.
So just by fiercely guarding his bodily autonomy, he inadvertently made himself immune to the Empire's worst weapon.
But of course, letting anyone find out about that immunity is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, a massive target on his back. If the hierarchy finds out, they'd vivisect him to understand it. And unfortunately, Quintus Ulciscor is very observant.
He watches Vis touch the sapper and walk away. And Ulciscor is a pragmatic man. He sees an unprecedented opportunity.
Which forces us to look at Vis's true identity. He isn't just a lucky orphan. Vis is actually Diago, the sole surviving prince of Seuss.
An independent island nation that the Republic ruthlessly slaughtered when he was 14.
The trauma of that invasion defines him. He constantly relives dangling over a cliff edge, held only by his father's blood-slicked grip. His father knows capture means the sappers. So he looks at Vis, whispers the word courage, and intentionally lets go.
Dropping his son to the abyss, gambling on a lethal fall to save him from the hierarchy.
Courage. Distilling a lifetime of duty into one word. Vis survives, but loses his family, his kingdom, his name. He spends 3 years hiding, fighting in illegal underground rings, just to earn copper coins to bribe record keepers so he can sneak into libraries.
He has a relentless pursuit of education, fueled by white-hot hatred for the Republic.
So when Ulciscor tracks him down after a fight, he interviews him. He realizes Vis has the refined education of a patrician, the survival instincts of a street rat, and immunity to sappers.
He's the perfect untraceable weapon.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Ulciscor offers a deal. He will officially adopt Vis into the prestigious Telimus family.
Vis will become Vis Telimus.
He'll sponsor him to attend the Catenan Academy, the most elite school in the world. Immense wealth, status, and a legal exemption from ever ceding will.
It sounds like a miracle, but the catch is huge. Vis has to act as Ulciscor's deep cover spy.
Why does a powerful Quintus need a teenage spy?
Because of the Catenan Senate structure. It's fractured into three competitive pyramids: military, religion, and governance.
And Ulciscor is military.
Right. But the academy is on the remote island of Salavakus, exclusively run by religion. It's closed off to military and governance.
And Ulciscor's brother, Cor, died there under suspicious circumstances.
Religion ruled it a suicide, but Ulciscor believes Principalis Viridius murdered him.
Because Carer was investigating pre-cataclysm ruins on the island, so Vis is thrust into a massive senatorial Cold War, military versus religion.
And Vis is the expendable pawn. Refuse, and he goes to the sappers. And he has to live among the children of the senators who slaughtered his family.
Driven by his father's final word, Vis accepts. And that takes us to the Academy on Sulbagus. It's a fascinating setup because it operates under one absolute rule.
No using will. It is strictly forbidden within its walls.
The propaganda says it's the ultimate meritocracy, that true leadership must be proven without the crutch of polyphagy.
It sounds noble.
But the text reveals it's a meticulously maintained illusion. Calidus, a highly intelligent and cynical student, points this out to Vis.
Calidus is the son of the censor, a top governance official. He understands power.
He explains the system is rigged. Yes, will is banned, but the patrician kids have been groomed since birth. Elite tutors, superior diets, deep political knowledge.
The ban on will doesn't level the playing field. It just obscures the systemic advantages the elite inherently have.
And that hypocrisy is violently tested in the physical trials, specifically the labyrinth.
The labyrinth is a massive shifting obstacle course. A student races to the center while three others hunt them down.
It's a brutal microcosm of Catenan society. Vis's first big trial is against a patrician bully named Ionix.
Ionix views Vis as an uncultured outsider.
But the illusion of a level field shatters because Ionix secretly cheats. He wears specialized armor imbued with will under his uniform,
giving him unnatural speed and force.
Vis realizes he's cheating, but there are no referees. To survive, Vis abandons formal martial arts and unleashes a modus.
A savage, relentless underground fighting style from the slums.
It's devastating. Vis dismantles Ionix, securing a shocking victory despite the imbued armor.
And that victory cements his dangerous reputation. He attracts a complex circle of allies and enemies.
Like Calidus, but also Aidhin, a massive student from a conquered mountain tribe.
Aidhin lives by Dedram Cyphrate, the right to death, honorable sacrifice. He respects raw strength and honesty.
And Vis is also drawn into the orbit of the absolute upper echelon, Emissa and Indol.
Catenan royalty. Indol is heir to the head of military. Emissa is brilliant and manipulative.
Vis is drawn to Emissa's intellect, but constantly reminds himself these are the children of his family's murderers. The psychological tension is palpable.
Imagine that pressure cooker. Now add the fact that the final exam, the iudicium, routinely results in students dying in highly convenient accidents.
You're literally trying to study history while checking for assassins in the hallway. But the danger isn't confined to the island. Outside, the world is erupting.
Which brings us to the Nomachia massacre at the Festival of Jovan.
The Nomachia is peak Catenan arrogance. They build a massive artificial lake in the center of the capital,
using astronomical amounts of will.
They populate it with real warships, manned by prisoners who are forced to fight to the death for entertainment.
Gladiator games on an industrial naval scale.
Vis is forced to attend, and he's nauseated watching regular citizens cheer as prisoners slaughter each other. But then the Anguis attack.
The radical rebel group. And their strategy is brutal. They disable the massive will reserves holding the lake in place.
The containment fails. Millions of gallons of water, shattered ships, and fighting prisoners violently wash into the civilian stands.
Tens of thousands of people die. Patricians, innocent civilians, and the very Octavii the rebels claim to champion.
Amidst the chaos, the rebel leader stands on a sinking ship, projecting his voice with stolen will. And Vis recognizes him.
It's Estevan, his father's former closest advisor from Zeus.
The man who helped raise Vis is orchestrating mass murder. Estevan's speech boils down to, a pyramid's strength is in its foundation, not its peak.
Later, Vis secretly confronts Estevan in the flooded sewers. He demands to know how he can justify killing innocent Octavi.
And Estevan's response is chillingly logical within his framework. If we connect this to the bigger picture, Estevan argues the Octavia are not innocent victims.
He calls them complicit enablers.
By ceding their will, paying taxes, accepting the piece of the hierarchy, they are hoisting the oppressors onto their own shoulders. Estevan says, silence is a statement. Inaction picks a side.
To profound philosophical challenge. Do you, the listener, agree? If you try to survive in a corrupt system, are you guilty of its crimes?
Vis is torn. He hates the hierarchy, but remembers destitute Octavi sharing food with him. He refuses to believe they deserve to drown.
But then comes a revelation that shatters everything Vis thought he knew.
Yes, at the Seuss Summit, a political gathering on Vis's former home island, now a grotesque luxury resort.
Vis sneaks through secret passageways he knows from childhood and eavesdrops on Domitius Quissel, head of military.
What he hears makes his blood run cold. Military leaders are discussing the Namakea attack, and they are celebrating.
Because military secretly funded and armed the Anguis.
The ultimate false flag. They provided the blueprints and access codes.
The motive is purely political survival. With no external enemies left, religion and governance wanted to cut military's funding.
So military engineered an existential threat. They wanted the attack to happen to drum up terror.
Justifying martial law and massive budgets to seize power, the rebels are just being played.
The rebellion is a curated illusion. This leaves Vis feeling utterly isolated. Violent rebellion is impossible because the system co-opts it.
Which makes his investigation into Carrer's death on Solovegas even more urgent.
So let's pivot to the deep sci-fi mystery. Vis sneaks out at night, exploring the restricted ancient ruins on the island.
The atmosphere shifts here. It goes from political thriller to cosmic mystery. Deep in a half-buried dome, Vis encounters ghosts.
But not ethereal ones. Solid figures from past eras, but they all have empty, raw, gaping eye sockets.
They don't attack physically, they just mechanically repeat warnings. One says he's condemned for trying to open the gate.
And the main warning is, Obitium is lost. Do not open the gate. Synchronous is death.
So what does this all mean? Vis translates ancient texts he finds.
The text speaks of three places, Res, Lucium, and Obitium. It talks about duplication and synchronism used by an ancient civilization to escape a war.
This rewrites everything. The hierarchy didn't invent the will network or the sappers. They are scavengers using technology they barely comprehend from a destroyed civilization.
And Principals Viridius isn't just running a school, the academy is a cover. He's excavating the ruins to open a gateway to these alternate realms.
Carrer discovered this apocalyptic danger, and Viridius murdered him to protect the secret.
So it's an existential threat to reality itself. And all these volatile threads collide during the Idicium, the final exam.
Students are dropped into the wilderness to find the heart of Jovan and return it to a statue.
But the real test is usually surviving sabotage from other students. This year, though, it's unprecedented. Vis and his team find their classmates brutally slaughtered.
Ambushed by assassins in green Anguis cloaks.
Vis fights one, and the assassin taunts him, revealing they were hired by military.
Military sent a hit squad to slaughter their own youth. Because if a mass casualty event happens on religion's watch, the Senate will strip religion of authority over the island.
Giving military control of the ruins. It's breathtakingly evil. Vis survives through sheer grit and his friend's sacrifices, secures the heart, and wins the title of Domitor.
A huge achievement, but he emerges deeply disillusioned. In the infirmary, he has to choose his senatorial assignment.
Well, Siskor expects him to join military. Viridius pressures him to join religion.
But Vis knows military slaughtered his friends, and religion plays with world-ending tech.
So he makes a brilliant move. He publicly requests assignment under governance, working for the censor.
Calidus's father. Governance controls the flow of information and archives.
Vis realizes you can't defeat the machine with blunt violence. He decides to embed himself in its informational heart to dismantle it from within.
True character growth. But his victory doesn't last a second.
Nope, because immediately after, Viridius privately confronts Vis in the ruins. Viridius knows Vis won't fall in line. In a desperate struggle, Viridius shoves Vis directly into the ancient portal.
The gateway to Obitium.
Vis falls through and wakes up in a snowy, ashen version of the ruins. The sky is the wrong color. He's fully crossed over into Obitium.
And figures approach through the ash. One has a scarred face.
It's Catenan Telimus, the man who supposedly died 3 years ago.
A version of him, anyway. And Carrer frantically explains the terrifying truth. The gateway doesn't just transport you, it copies you.
It duplicates matter and consciousness. Vis has just been duplicated.
And Carrer warns that his connection to Res, the original world, is fading. If Vis doesn't act fast, his original body back with Viridius will die.
Talk about a cliffhanger, ripping the floor out right at the finish line.
Truly mind-bending.
So let's synthesize this incredible journey. We went from the will-draining sappers in Leighton's prison, to the cutthroat politics of the academy, to a manipulated false flag rebellion, and finally, reality-duplicating ancient technology.
And the core philosophical tension remains. Is it possible to survive inside a corrupt hierarchy without becoming part of its foundation? Vis is walking that razor-thin line.
He really is. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, but before you go, consider this final provocative thought. If the ancient technology duplicated the world into res and obitium, and Kara implies Vis has been copied.
That means there are now two versions of Vis.
Exactly. If your consciousness is perfectly duplicated into two separate bodies in two separate dimensions, which one is the real you? And what happens when those two identical versions ultimately realize they might have to fight each other for survival? Keep questioning everything.